Hi, everyone.
Hi!
Welcome to the Dismal Swamp. My name is Bob Spiegel. I'm the Executive Director of the Edison Wetlands Association. And we have much better weather than we did last week when we came out here and when we had thunder and lightning. So we're going to have a great time today. It's a little warm, but the Dismal Swamp is gorgeous. We're going to be going under an area where there's some trees later on, so hopefully it won't be too warm. The Dismal Swamp is around 240 acres in Edison, but it extends into South Plainfield, and it goes into Metuchen. So it's quite a big swamp. And what we're going to do today is do an eco tour and take a tour through some of the different areas in the swamp. We're going to start out, we're going to walk down the railroad tracks, we're going to walk over the road to an archaeological site, and then we're going to come around, we're going to walk down the road. I want to show you some of the good and some of the not so good stuff that you'll see out in the swamp today. And then we're going to have a press conference in the end where some of you are going to get a chance to talk about some of your concerns and some of the great things that you guys have done with your posters and your letters. So what we're going to do is walk down here now, and we're going to follow up to the road. When we get to the road, chaperones, we're all going to stop, and we're going to wait for the police officers to come and cross us, and then we're going to walk single file over the road, and then you're going to come over to, when I say to the left, we're going to cut over to the left to our first stop. So it's very, very important that you guys pay attention to what we're doing. Don't do anything without being told when we're going over the road, because there's cars there, and although the Edison police will be there, it's very important that you listen. I notice we have a number of chaperones here. Can we all put up our hands, our chaperones and our teachers? Okay, so these are the people that are going to be watching. I want you to pay very close attention to when they say something, because it's very important for all our safety that you guys pay close attention to us. I want to have a great time today in the swamp. I want to see lots and lots of stuff, and hopefully we'll get a chance to have a really good experience out here. There's a lot to offer, and you guys are great. You guys have been great throughout the school year, and hopefully this will be a good experience.
Okay. Oh, on a side note here, if anybody needs to use the facilities, it's called the Great Outdoors. So I do have toilet paper with me, so just let me know if you do need to go. Okay. So everybody stay in your groups and let's
By the way, anybody that doesn't know, this is Cheryl Duran.
They know.
She does a lot of good work with us. Anybody that doesn't know her hasn't been in class. And this is Andrea Ace, who also works for Edison Wetlands. And she also is one of the greatest people that you'll ever meet.
All right.
So welcome, and let's take a walk. Animals and birds that are in the swamp. So we're going to walk down the railroad track along here.
And be very careful. Walk a little slower, okay?
To cross.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Okay, everyone.
Remember Billy?
Come all the way around, and eventually you'll be able to ride your bike from Edison to come up to this area with only having to cross a small road. This is the Dismal Swamp. As you can see, the sign, it says entering the Dismal Swamp Conservation Area. Unfortunately, they ignore the bottom part, which says absolutely no dumping. And as you can see by where we're walking, sometimes people kind of ignore signs, unfortunately, for the swamp.
You don't think you can make it?
We will.
I think I know why. I'm going to say stay out of the program.
Single file.
From first entering the forest. You were out there, and what were you out there? Hot. And what happened when you came in here? You're still hot. Well, did you notice that the temperature drops? Why did the temperature drop?
Because
And they act as what?
they act as shade.
As shade and shelter. That's right,
And
exactly.
the shade kind of keeps the sun from coming in.
They keep the sun from coming in, and yeah, and they act as a big canopy. So it's really nice to be in the woods now. You'd think, oh, it might be hotter in the woods, but no, it's a relief. So now we can have like a nice, better, less hot walk. Now, you're going to see a lot of things in the woods, but I want to show you something in particular. This is called sassafras. And it's a plant, or tree plant. Looks sort of like this, but this isn't it. I found these down there. And the cool thing about sassafras is if you crumple up the leaves, and I'll pass these around, I want you to smell it. Just crumple it up a little bit, and I want you to smell it. A long time ago, the American Indians made tea out of the sassafras. Now, I want to tell you something else. I want you guys to just go on a little pretend journey with me. And let's say you go to a new person's house. Are you guys listening? What'd I say? I don't know. Alrighty then. What happens when you go to someone's house for the first time? What kinds of things do you watch out for? You've never been there before, and you're going to go to their house. Never mind. Yes, possibly you should watch out for termites. But when you go to someone's house for the first time, do you say please? And you say thank you? And do you run around like a madman and madwoman?
Yeah.
Do you scream and shout?
Yeah.
The first time you ever go to someone's house?
Yeah.
The point is there's certain rules that you follow just by instinct. When you walk into someone's house for the first time, you kind of stay quiet, you're extra polite at first until you get to know the mom and the dad, and then you can kind of loosen up. Well, it's a little bit different, but sort of the same also when you go into a forest. This is actually someone's house, a whole bunch of people's house. Not real people, but animals. They all live here, okay? And this is their place. So this is the first time you've been there, here. So you want to show them the same respect. You want to keep your voices down, okay? If you see a squirrel, you don't want to chase after it. You're not going to walk into someone's house and start chasing the people, okay? Like crazy people. So just think about when you first go to someone's house how you act, and you want to have the same respect in the forest. Keep your voices down. Another thing is it's in your it will benefit you to do this because if you're really loud and you start to scream and shout, the animals aren't going to stick around very long because they're scared. They're intimidated by you. They're afraid of you. So they're going to run off. Well, the ticks aren't going to be very afraid of you, but, you know, I'm sure you're not very psyched to see a tick either. But you might be psyched to see a deer or a snake or a frog or a turtle, and they will take off if you're super, super loud. So let's try it out, okay? And when you see us raise our hands, it means you're getting a little nuts, and we need to tone things down a bit. Yeah, you can take pictures.
Tell you something.
Yes, you come this way too. How you moving up?
Don't say a hole. See if you can actually guess. Not a ditch. What do you think it is? Okay, it's not a ditch. It's not. It is a hole. But why is this hole dug in the middle of the woods? Anybody know? Nope, there wasn't a house here. Well, yes and no. There was somebody's home here. Yes. Okay, let me tell you what was here. Yes. Yep, this is an archaeological site we're standing in. Do you know who the first people to live in Edison were? Well, the Native American Indians, yes. And the people that lived here were before the Lenape Indians. They were pre-Lenape. They were actually prehistoric Indians. And they lived in the Dismal Swamp between 8 and 12,000 years ago. That was even before they knew who was living here. This was actually a winter camp. The Native Americans that lived here, this was one of the many stops they made, and they stopped in this area, and they lived here for part of the winter. And they used to come up and down the waterways, going all the way down to the rivers, and they would fish and hunt down at the rivers, and then they would go back up to the mountains. So this was one of the many stops they made. Now the reason for the hole here was, when they put the road in, they wanted to see exactly what was here. So they dug a series of holes. There's a smaller one there. There's a bigger one here, and there's more on the other side of the road. And they did what they call a dig, where they dug a certain amount of size, and then they sift all the dirt, and they see what's in the ground. What was here was an incredible amount of what they call pieces of shards of axe handles, arrowheads, you know, many pieces that were used by these folks that lived here. And just like a camp, people lived here, they died here, they lived in this area for a very long time. We were told by the archaeologists that any stone that we find in this area was part of the Native American site, because if you look around, you really don't see any small stones. You see very little to nothing. So I just found this piece of stone over there. So this is probably part of what was a fireplace or something used by the Native Americans that lived here. If you guys go into Town Hall, we actually got the Township of Edison to display some of the arrowheads, some of the axes, and some of the stuff that they found right here on the second floor by the council chambers. So if your mom and dad ever go to Town Hall, you should go with them and take a look at some of what they found. And there's literally thousands and thousands of pieces that they've taken out of these small holes. So you can imagine what's here and how important it is to learn about the history of Edison and who was here before we were. Yes? Well, you got to remember that they lived in things that weren't permanent. They lived in... No, this was flat. What they did was, they had, the only real structures that they made were ones that they could take up with them and move around, like teepees and different types of dome tents that they built from animal skins. What they did have is they had a lot of fireplaces. So a lot of these stones were from fireplaces that they dug and where they cooked their food. But Native American Indians tried never to leave too much of an impact on the land, which is what we should try to do too. So when we leave, it looks like we were never here. And that should be one of the goals when we live on the earth, that when we're done with it, that we leave something for somebody else, and that we try not to leave an impact, such as garbage, or dropping paper cups, or leaving stuff behind when we're done after barbecue or camping. So that's one of the things that we should try to be more like the Native Americans and leave only rocks and stones behind and nothing else. And that's one of the beauties of this area is when we come here, you have a sense of the history of who was here 10,000 years ago, and that's a long time. That's really hard for us to understand in terms of our life is 100 years at the most. These people lived here 10,000 years ago. So that's pretty neat. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes?
How did they get the stones here? Did they bring them up from the mountain?
Yes, they would bring them up from other areas, and they would build their fireplaces with them, or they would carve them into axes or spears, and they would keep them for a very long time, because as you can see, 10,000 years later, the stones don't break down. They stay for a long time. Yes? No, this hole's been here for about 4 years. When they had to find the, when they came out here, the schools came out here and they did these digs, they dug these holes in order to see what was in the ground. And they took out quite a bit from this little hole that you see right here. And actually, if you had a shovel, you would be able to actually take out more, but we wouldn't want to do that. But there's lots of other artifacts in here. Yes. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk back up to the road. We're going to walk down to one of the ponds, and John is going to be there, Mr. Shursik, and I think he might have a turtle or might have find some wildlife for us to look at. So we're going to go back up the road. You're going to follow us out, and we're going to walk down to the pond. And we're going to leave this guy here for the next group that comes through. Probably over here.
I was like, oh my God, she's right there in the blue. Is that stick there?
No. How was that?
I have left finger going to fall.
All the rocks are cleared away. That's all their nests. They're going to have.
Yeah, I see a nest right there.
Yep. You got it.
Are those eggs?
No, they're just the rocks cleared away. Ventilator eggs. Hey, John, you want to say some stuff about the fish and stuff in here?
Watch out. Yeah.
Well, these are just sunfish. See, there's another one, a couple of them over there.
I found a dead fish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I would. Yeah.
Okay, guys, if you want to look in here, you can see some of the fish that's in here.
See the big sunfish over
The
there?
big sunfish in here.
Whoa,
Scoop around, there's another one.
Whoa, he's stuffy.
It's a piece of garbage. It's a big plastic bag.
Can you catch a fish?
They're pretty fast.
Where's the bottle? Catch one. I wonder if it has big message. Yeah. Try the message in the
You guys don't
bottle.
lean over too far. Take a half a step back, everyone.
Everybody, a half step back. You're a little bit too close.
Watch, don't lean over too far. You guys watch. If you want to hold the crayfish, John, show them how to hold it. You guys pay attention. Anybody that wants to hold the crayfish. That's how.
I know, but they won't.
Let's take a picture.
I want to get a picture.
Oh, fine.
Did you take a picture?
Yeah, it was.
It went over here.
Where's Rima?
Over here.
Went in a hole.
They won't listen. Gabe, go.
Gabriel, don't do that. You have to stand that way.
We can't.
That one, right?
Get him.
Did everybody?
Jump in there. Russell.
Anybody want to hold?
Fire in the hole. Oh, he got him. Look at the size of that one. Who here likes lobster?
Look at that. Pass it out.
Watch it, go. Grab him from the back, guys.
Grab it from the back.
Pinch him a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sure can. Wait. Easy, guys.
No, you want to take a look?
What?
Don't put that thing next.
Because this is spring water that comes out of the ground. And the water is very, very clean. An indication that the water that's around here, or wherever you find crayfish, is clean. Because they can't live in dirty water. There's tadpoles, there's turtles, there's lots of fish. These are clean ponds. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the life that's here, that will live here.
Chris, you didn't get the hold it. Did you? Chris didn't
Does anybody else want to hold the crayfish before we let them go?
Raymond, hold it. Can I let it go? Can I let it go? Can I hold it? I tried to do it. I
Guys,
didn't let it go.
what kind of water is this? Fresh or salt? Fresh,
I want to
right.
let it go.
I'm just trying to just want, you want every day to look at them because
Michelle? Michelle?
stick them into a picture. I'm going, wait a minute, stop.
Come on, guys.
You guys can walk around here, too.
Here, I get mad splash. It's going to be freezing out there. Yeah, I know. This month.
You guys, hold up a second. Okay, Johnny, lead the way.
Yes.
See a swamp at least. I mean, see what it really looks like.
Hold up.
Go in that mud.
Ew, not on these.
You see them all swimming around, all them bugs?
What are they?
The mosquito babies.
Look at them.
Oh my
Look
God,
at
a
them.
snake.
Look at all of them right
A
here.
snake!
Look at them. They're all over the place.
Whoa, a snake! You don't bite too much, buddy.
If he bites me, I'll do
I see bacon. Is it good we came this way?
Yes, it is.
There you go.
Stay out of the mud.
Bite
Be
you.
careful. Try to stay in the drier spot.
Blood, you know. See that? See, he was in there trying to find some stuff to eat too.
Where?
That's his little.
Thank you.
Bobby.
Grab it by the tail.
Don't bite me. Bob, can we take it home?
We gotta give him a- Yeah, box turtles and stuff.
We found one. Crazy. Where'd he go?
Property now has as many tenants as it's going to hold. Oh, he's a snapping turtle.
He's right. This guy, we can't let you guys play with this one.
Look at it, isn't it beautiful? Look at it, it's
See this
wonderful.
one eye? He's got leeches on it. See those bloodsuckers on his eye?
Yeah, stay away, guys.
Fresh air.
But he bites.
That's the cleanest.
Turtle.
Probably about, I'd say probably 20, 25 pounds.
Hey.
It's gonna kill you! It's Godzilla!
Okay, guys, let's head back.
It's a turtle!
Try to bite me.
That was huge. I wish you got it even
See what it's
huger.
glass though, you guys? You gotta be really.
Please!
Anybody who has their posters, come on over here with me. James, over here, please. The audience is this way, so you guys are going to face this way. Nice. Whatever one you like better. Or you can hold them both up.
How can I?
Everyone back up. Now, guys, I need you to be quiet while the other people are talking, okay? This is the... Guys, eyes over here. Say a few words, okay? The teachers are going to say something. And then I want you guys to talk about how you felt about the program this year, what you guys saw today, okay? Both the pollution and all of the wildlife, all right? And I want you guys to, some of you guys to talk about your posters, okay? But I need you guys to be quiet while other people are talking and pay attention. All right. Thank you all for coming. The press, Frank, Red, Joan Capitan, thank you all for coming. The parents. My name is Cheryl Duran. I'm the educational coordinator for the Edison Wetlands Association. And today I wanted to have the kids have an opportunity to learn about voicing their opinions to the press and to the general public. We've been running an education program for the year 1998 to 1999. It's definitely been a busy one. We've had a number of classroom visits and also some opportunities for the kids to come out into the swamp today and in November. So far, they've learned basically an overall of what wetlands are, what the threats to them are, what kind of inhabitants there lives in the swamp, and basically how we're all connected, the web of life. Today, like I said, I want the kids to have an opportunity to voice their concerns about what they see as threats to the wetlands and what some of the cool things that they saw today. Before I do that, I'd like to introduce Bob Spiegel, the Executive Director for the Edison Wetlands Association, someone who has made a difference, and what the fourth classroom visit for the kids will be based upon, is how they, as children, can make a difference. Bob here has started the Edison Wetlands Association 10 years ago, and he's going to talk a little bit about the Dismal Swamp, what he's done, and some of the threats and solutions there are to the problems. Bob?
Hi. Thanks. It's great to be here. You guys were just great. You guys all deserve a round of applause. You did really well today. My name is Bob Spiegel. I started the Edison Wetlands Association in 1989 along with John Shursik, wherever he went to. And me and John started the organization. There he is over there. Me and John started the organization in response to a development that was proposed on wetlands. And since 1989, our group has grown to work on cleaning up hazardous waste sites, to giving eco tours. And 2 years ago, last year, we started the education program because we felt that it was very important to bring education into the classroom, real-life education. And as you can see today, the kids got a chance to come out here, see some turtles, see some frogs, little squish frogs, but they still, nevertheless. They saw some crayfish, they saw a snake, and they saw a lot of stuff in between. They saw plants, but they also saw some dumping, you know, and it was good for them to see the whole circle. Some of the benefits of swamps, just for your information, our swamps act as filters for all the water in the area. All the water from this whole area filters down into the swamp, and the swamp acts like a sponge and filters the water and then releases it slowly into the environment. So that's one of the functions of a swamp. One of the other functions, as you could tell, were the trees. And when we went under the trees, you could feel a difference. You could feel it was actually cooler outside. And, you know, the temperature dropped when we were under the trees. So trees provide not only oxygen, but they cool the environment down as well. And last but not least, the swamp provides animal habitat for all the amazing animals that are out here, all the 165 different species of animals that we found in the swamp. So wetlands provide a lot of things that most people aren't aware of. It used to be years ago, people thought of wetlands as garbage, you know, areas where you couldn't, you know, do anything with because you couldn't build on them. You couldn't farm them. They were open, you know, they were areas, but they weren't good areas. But now we know different. Now we know that wetlands are actually really beneficial to our community, and they're worth saving. And what I want to do is talk a little bit real quickly about some of the threats to the swamp.
Do you guys want to say a few words? Mrs. Sudak? Yeah, Mrs. Sudak, the fourth grade teacher from Washington Elementary School, who was one of the founding teachers of this program, say a few words about it.
Well, all I have to say is the best thing Arlene Fink and I ever did was hook up with the people in the Wetlands Association. We were looking for a way to get our fourth graders acquainted with their town, not just historically, but environmentally also. And we had called the Wetlands Association, and they have been just great with us. They've come into the classroom and they've taught lessons. How did you like the lessons, kids? Great lessons. We have gone twice now, last year and this, on a tour of the swamp. We're trying to make it part of an environmental curriculum involving their town. And what better way to make fourth graders concerned citizens in life than getting them to see people like Cheryl and Bob and others who are so devoted to a cause and who put 100% effort into it all the time. So I have nothing but great things to say about the Wetlands Association, what they're trying to do, and how they've helped our kids really become acquainted with their own town. Thank you.
Want to say a few words?
This is truly an Edison treasure. I enjoyed walking through today. I saw some wonderful things, and I saw some things that weren't so wonderful. I'm very upset with the dumping that's going on, and as a council person, we're going to try to do something about it, get stricter with our laws, and preserve this wonderful treasure of Edison. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Sudak and Mrs. Fink's class made a tour of Edison, and the Dismal Swamp is included in that, right, guys?
Yes.
And they can get that by contacting either Mrs. Fink or Mrs. Sudak. Mrs. Fink's at Martin Luther King, or Mrs. Sudak, who is at Washington. All right, now the important guys. All right, kids, I want to see your posters so Red can get those on camera. Okay? Hold them up. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Red's going to get them. I'd like to ask you guys a few questions. Okay? Sarah, why don't you come up with your poster in your group, and I want you guys to talk about your poster for Red. Stay right there. Back up a little bit, guys. Where's your group? Michael? Is it your group? Where's
Michael.
anybody who's in Sarah's group, come on up. Okay. All right, ready, guys? Red, here you go.
Quick, help us. The open space is almost gone. Ah! Animals are dying because of pollution. We must help before it's all disappeared. We're going to tell you all the things about open spaces.
The first issue I want to talk about is trash. Too much trash will make air pollution, which causes acid rain and will ruin the air since it will look so bad. People won't go there anymore, so people will overfill.
Our second issue will be water pollution. Water causes rain, and if the water is polluted, it will evaporate with chemicals and garbage. That can cause acid rain. Acid rain will destroy trees and animals. Soon no one will go to open spaces because they are polluted and destroyed. Our third issue is air pollution. Air pollution is caused by factories and many cars. Since the smoke causes air pollution, it gets in the rain and is called acid rain. Acid rain can kill animals and plants. Also, air pollution can cause a hole in the ozone layer.
Nice. Now I want to ask you guys a couple.
we're not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my.
My fourth issue is activities. First, you can write a letter to the mayor or editor. Second, make a sign that says, help the open space. Third, whenever you see garbage, throw it away. Lastly, walk if it's a short distance. Thank you for listening to us. Do the things I have told you. Come on and help. Now, ma'am.
Excellent. All right, I want to ask you guys a couple of questions. What did you guys see today? Allison.
I saw some dead animals and a deer skin.
Wow. Bobby.
A big snapping turtle.
Excellent. Yeah, Christopher.
We saw lots of animals that were like how they live and stuff. Like the turtle, he lives in like the mud and stuff, and had to go through it.
Terrific. Philip, what did you see?
Snakes.
Wow. Excellent. Nick.
I saw a big pile of trash.
You saw a big pile of trash. Did anybody expect to see lots of trash here?
No.
No? Do you think it belongs here?
No.
No. Now, what do you guys think we can do about that? About getting the trash away? Yeah, Bobby.
Help clean it up.
Help clean it up. Samantha.
To maybe have a cleanup day at least once a week to get away all the trash.
Okay. David.
You could go farther into the swamp and try to get out more, and then make a bigger pile of trash. So when people and put it right by the entrance, so when people drive by, you'll see that the swamp is all full, and then you go away.
Now, how did you guys feel when you saw all the animals and all the wildlife? Allison.
I thought it was neat seeing so many different species of wildlife.
Excellent. Now, what did you feel when you saw all the trash? Yeah, Allison.
I felt bad because of all the animals that were living here. They might sort of die out because of all the trash.
Excellent. Yeah.
I learned that wetlands are really helpful to us and animals, and if we dump anything there, that it'll all go away.
Terrific. Yeah, Samantha, what did you learn? Excellent. What's recyclable? What's non-recyclable? Yep.
Okay, fine.
I have that here.